I'd like to welcome everyone that is here today, especially the candidates. It's a wonderful opportunity for all of us to get to see you and hear you, and also the members of the audience and the TV audience that will probably watch it on tape at home. So while there aren't too many people here to hear you now, you will be heard by a lot of people. My name is Patience Gall, and I'm a member at large of the Community Education Program Advisory Council, otherwise known as CPAC. CPAC is made up of representatives from every school in the district, staff, and community members. A need was expressed by friends and neighbors to learn about the candidates for school board. This year, 5 individuals are running for 3 school board seats. We feel it is important to offer the community multiple opportunities to hear them. The League of Women Voters sponsored one forum, and we are sponsoring this one. Every candidate will have 1 minute to answer the questions. We have a timekeeper right over here with 2 signs. You get a 15-second warning. This year, the presidential debates have added a less than polite note into their format. We wish to keep this forum positive in manner. Therefore, there will be no rebuttals by anyone to questions answered by a previous candidate. Simply answer the question asked without reference to what anyone else has said. We ask you to treat each other with respect and speak in a positive manner as you express your ideas. Thank you for your courtesy. Unlike some of the debates I have heard lately, I know you'll do just fine. For the audience, if you wish to have a question answered, you may write it down on the cards we have available, and we have people there that will, just raise your hand if you want a card. And you may do this at any time during the forum when a question occurs to you. Each question will be answered by every candidate. We will try to get as many questions asked as we have time for in the allotted time. We intend to end this forum promptly at 8:30. We will begin with a brief statement from each candidate, introducing themselves and then going on to questions from the audience from there. And we'll start with Linda.
Hi, I'm Linda Eatum, and I am a Brooklyn Park resident, have been since 1993. I am a widow with 3 sons. I have 6 grandchildren. I'm a master's level social worker. I currently work in the emergency behavioral medicine department at one of the hospitals in the Twin Cities. I have 40 plus graduate credits in the area of education administration. And I have been involved since '97 on multiple initiatives pertaining to the Osseo School District. Those include the Northview Junior High School Site Council, the Multicultural Advisory Committee for the district, the Community Collaborative Council, which is part of the Multicultural Advisory Committee. I also have served in the community on the advisory board for Family and Children's Services. I am currently on the Brooklyn Park Forum for Domestic Violence. And most of all, I have been a school board member in the past. I was a board member from 2004 to 2008. So I served 5 years on the Osseo School District School Board, and I look forward to an opportunity to serve again. Thank you.
Robert?
My name is Robert Gerhardt, and I am a Maple Grove resident. I have been for about 14 years. I'm married. I have 4 kids. I have been a member of our local parent-teacher organization at Rice Lake for 3 years. I have been the Rice Lake parent representative to CPAC, the group that's hosting us tonight, for 2 years. And I was a member of the district website redesign committee. For most of my career, I've been a professional problem solver. I'm a degreed engineer, and I have a master's in management. And during this next term, the one thing I'd like to point out is that of my 4 kids within this next term, all 4 of them will be in 3 different district schools, so I've got a major hand in this game. Things that affect this district and affect our students probably affect my family more so than most. So the things that are important to the kids are important to me, and I will do right by the kids and by the parents. Thank you.
Okay, Jackie, you are next.
Hi, my name is Jackie Gertz. I have been a resident of Brooklyn Park for 10 years. My family just recently relocated to Maple Grove and moved our office to Osseo, right downtown Osseo. I have 5 children, 3 of which have been in many different schools in this district, and I've been on many committees and been active in almost all of the buildings that we've been a part of. I would list them, but it would really take a long time to list them. So I have a child that has a disability, and in that I have learned how to advocate for him for his education. And in doing that, I really in advocating for him, I learned a lot, and I also felt good about myself being able to help him in ways that I didn't think that I could. And in learning how to advocate for him, I really found that I had a heart for advocating for all children. This was something that I learned how to do, I knew nothing about, and learned how to do. And so I knew that if I was a parent who didn't know and had to learn, I knew that there were others out there who needed help with learning how to advocate too, and I also just have a heart to advocate for all children.
Okay, Colette.
I'm Colette Guy at Hempel. Good evening, and thank you for coming and turning into the forum this evening. I am a resident of Brooklyn Park, and I've been here for 21 years. I have a degree in psychology with a minor in child psych. I work for Minneapolis Public Schools in special ed, and I am married, and I have one son who is currently attending Hamline University. I've served on the DPAC and on Edinburgh's PTO in the past. I believe that the district is good. However, there are ways that we can improve for academic performance for all of the students, including closing the gap and equity in our schools. Our students receive fewer year-long credits than neighboring school districts, including Minneapolis, Anoka, Hennepin, and Wayzata school districts. I think we can make the district better, and I look forward to serving the students. Thank you.
And finally, Dean.
Good evening. My name is Dean Henke. I'm a 25-year resident of Maple Grove. My wife, Donna, we've been married 21 years. I have 2 daughters, both graduates from Maple Grove Senior High, currently attending college. I have a background in accounting and finance, 15 plus years as a financial analyst in the healthcare industry. Prior to serving on the school board, I served on I think it was the first fiscal committee, and in 2004 I was elected to the school board, so have been on the board for 9 years, and have learned a lot over those years, and will continue to be a strong advocate for students, helping them and their parents navigate our system, an advocate for staff, and just want to thank you all for being here. Thank you.
Okay. Our first question is, what do you see as the most important issue facing the Osseo area schools today, and how would you like to see this issue resolved? And this time we'll start with Robert. And what I'm going to do each time so that you can kind of mentally get ready is I will move down the line with each question so that you all get a chance to be first, and we'll come back around. So,
Well, I think quite possibly the biggest issue that's facing the district right now would have to be the financial budget shortfall that we're going to be seeing in a few years. We're hearing a lot about that related to the levy. I'm very concerned about not only if the levy passes, we still have a shortfall to deal with, but what happens if the levy does not pass. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to be upset. It's going to be hard to spare anybody's program that's near and dear to their hearts, and I think that that's going to be where the toughest decisions are going to be made over the next several years. So that's definitely going to be the biggest issue facing the district.
okay, thank you. Jackie?
I think one of the main issues facing the district is that we have many mandates federally, legislatively, that teachers are expected to perform, and without increase of money that's coming in, to be able to have underfunded mandates and have teachers still have to perform more and more is a challenge. And so I see that as one of our challenges that we have in the district.
Thank you. Colette?
I believe our biggest challenge is the academic achievement of all students, closing the gap and providing rigorous classes for students that would truly succeed in AP courses, college in the schools, and need more electives. Again, like I said before, we have less year-long credits, which results in less electives for our students. They need to know what direction they want to go past high school. The Anoka Hennepin program has a STEP program that I'd like to see us implement with North Hennepin or with North Community College or the Technical College. And we really need to do something about closing the achievement gap. We need to make this different.
Dean?
I think we have we have one real immediate issue, and that's kind of under the umbrella of standards-based grading. We're just 1 year into implementation, and we're finding some items within that implementation that more of our staff need to get up to speed on. Students are having some struggles with our implementation. Secondly, after that would be budgetary. As one of the other candidates had mentioned, our expenses are exceeding our revenue, and at a point in time, even if the levy was to pass, we'll be looking at budget cuts that could be pretty significant. Thanks.
Okay, and then Linda.
Well, I think budgetary issues has always been an issue, and I think that that's something that we're going to have to address over time so that we don't get to a point where we have to make these major cuts all at once. But I think also the reason that we're here is because of academic achievement, and I think that this district is facing some serious issues when it comes to that. So I think we need to really spend some time looking at what the mission is for the school district and reworking how we accomplish that. I think we, again, are here because we want to make sure that all children are successful. And I know that we've tried in this district multiple ways to do that, and I think we're going to have to continue looking at how to get the job done.
Okay, there were some of you mentioned the levy, and I have a pile of questions about where you stand on the levy, so I think we'll just ask them right now. This will be for Jackie. Do you support the 2 levy questions we have on the ballot this year? If so, what are you doing to help pass them? And if not, are you doing something to encourage people to vote no?
I am in favor of the levies. I am telling every single person that I know, word of mouth, getting it out to let people know that if the levies don't pass, what the consequences will be, and I am in favor of the levies.
Okay, Colette?
I am in favor of the levies. I have a sign saying vote yes for the referendum levies on our property. I truly believe that we need this funding to ensure the quality education remains the same, and through budget priorities, we could make it better. I think the technology money is absolutely necessary. We have inequities in the district regarding some schools having equipment for 10 years while others still do not have the same equipment. That includes the FM systems that Woodland had when it opened in 2002, And Birch Grove to date still does not have them in all of their classrooms.
Thank you. And Dean?
I supported placing both the levies on the ballot, and my role is to inform people about the items on the ballot. You know, the operating levy, the technology levy, and so I'm not on a vote yes committee, nor am I on a oppose the levy committee. So informing people of the questions. Thanks.
And Linda?
Yes, I do support the levy. I have said this before, and I'll say it again. We do need to fund education adequately. It costs far more to incarcerate someone than it does to educate, and therefore I think we need to put the money in education on the front end so that we assure that our children are getting, you know, the best education possible. I do spend a lot of time when I can talking to people about why the levy is important. There is always a lot of confusion about why the district, you know, needs more money. And there's some confusion about the types of levies, like the operating levy versus the bond referendum. So I do spend time talking to people about these levies, about the technology levy and why we need those things. And most people agree that I talk to, but they just don't understand. So I do spend time educating people.
Thank you. Robert?
I support both of the levies. Regarding the operating levy, I think that it's somewhat of a moot point. We need the money, and the money that we're asking for in the levy is not going to be adequate to make up for the budget shortfalls that we're going to see in a couple of years. So if we don't pass it, we're either talking about troubles or big troubles. Therefore, I support the operating levy. The technology levy, I also support. I have a little greater reservation regarding that one, mainly because I've looked into some of the details regarding our technology spend within the budget or within the district, and have found that we are spending anywhere from possibly 2.5 times to 8 times too much money to do what we're doing right now. I think that we can put a lot of this technology money to good use if the taxpayer wishes to grant it to us, but I would like to make sure that it is well supervised and put into a transformative learning environment where the technology can actually be put to good use.
Thank you. Okay, the question that I have in my hand will be answered first by Colette, so you can get ready. This is a gloom and doom question. Since we've been talking about levies, here's the question. If the levies on the ballot are not approved, how would you cut the $14 million necessary?
The first place is how much board members take on, for how much money they get per month. That makes the attitude that we're part of the picture. Then we have to look at administrative costs. We're going to have to look at the fact that we've lost 1,100 students in the past, since 2008. We lost 167 students this year from the enrollment projections from last spring. And we're going to have to make some significant changes in requesting parents pay for transportation and possibly increasing the extracurricular activities. Between those two line items, that's $3 million that we are currently spending from the budget.
Okay, Dean?
It'd be a tough job, even the second time I've seen budget cuts on the board. 80 to 85% of our budget is staff, salary, and benefits. I've been working hard to try to contain costs within our contract, but knowing that they're negotiated, you know, not always can't make as much ground as I would like to see. With that said, if we could contain some contract costs, that would be a move towards saving some of those dollars. But beyond that, knowing that the bulk of our budgeted staff, what I've seen is it's usually results in staff reductions, which is very unfortunate. It raises class sizes, and we lose a lot of we lose a lot of staff through that process.
Thank you. Linda?
Well, you're right, it is a kind of a doom and gloom question, but I think whatever we do with the budget issue, we need to try as much as possible to keep it away from our children. I think we have to keep in mind that our students are why we're here. The next important thing, I think, is the teachers. Without the students, there'd be no teachers. Without teachers, we wouldn't be able to teach. So I think those are two critical pieces of this whole scenario, and we have to do what we need to do to make sure that we maintain, teachers who are, appropriate for teaching, and that we provide our students with the best education possible. That being said, I think that we need to look at, cutting the budget if we have to over time, and not trying to make these huge cuts all at once. And I think it's something that we'll have to do ongoing, because we're always going to have a problem with the budget.
Robert?
Since I'm maybe not as optimistic as some about the possibility of this levy passing, I've been spending some time thinking about this. And the problem is that no matter what, you end up having to cut, whether it be staff, whether it be programs, you end up with a lot of people that are unhappy, and everyone wants to protect their own special interests, so to speak. So the solution that I'm proposing is that we take a look at all of the programs and all of the cost centers that the district has, identify those that are mandated by law that we can't touch, those are off the table. Find those programs that support those functions, consider them somewhat protected, and then take a look at everything else. We form a community-based committee to look at those individual items and rank them, and then to hand that ranked list off to another group that attaches budgetary numbers to each of those things, and start with the least important and start working our way down until we make our budget.
Thank you. Jackie?
With the bulk of the money that the school district has being in people, unfortunately, if we're speaking gloom and doom, unfortunately that may be something that we'd have to do, is to have larger classroom sizes and cut personnel, just because that's the majority part of what we spend our money on. But I would also want to help to work with negotiations to try to contain those costs that are with the different groups as well.
Thank you. Dean, you'll get this next question first. How do we keep our students competitive with students from Wayzata and Minnetonka when they have a lot more money per student to educate with?
It's a good question. I would say with the resources and the staff that we have, and that with the students that we have, we may not have every bell and whistle that the other school districts have. But I've seen some of the students that we graduate, and they do go on to some pretty prestigious schools. So I don't know that it's necessarily we're not going to have enough to do a good job of educating our kids. It just comes down to what our students, what our staff, what our community can do with the resources that we have, and then just send them out to really excel at what they can do with what they have. That would be my answer.
Thank you. Linda?
Well, I think we have to focus on our own district, and I think that we have to, with the resources that we have, make sure that we're doing the best job that we can do. I think, looking at what Wayzata is doing, I think, we can try and compete with that. I think, in reality, Osseo has done a good job of educating children. I think that we will continue to do a good job. I think it's just a matter of being creative with the resources that you have, in order to replicate what some of the other districts are doing. So I don't think that we can't do it. I think we just need to focus on what we can do with the money that we have and make sure that we're doing the best job that we can do.
Okay, Robert?
It's somewhat unfair to compare us to Wayzata and districts similar to Wayzata. We're in a much different situation than they are. We have a much larger school district. We have a much more diverse school district, culturally, economically, and so on. So it's much more difficult to implement changes and policies that please everybody, and everybody knows that no one size fits all. In order to better serve our individual students, I think we need to fundamentally change the way the classroom is established and look at individualizing the experience for each individual learner. I've seen programs that are technology-based, that the technology levy would help a great deal to fund, where an individual student has a course that's customized for their abilities, their needs, they're tested on it regularly, and then that courseware is automatically tweaked in order to help them learn the most that they can. This is the absolute best system that I can think of for the motivated learner to achieve as much as they can with the resources that we have available.
Jackie?
I think when we speak of comparing to other districts, you know, we compare other people's strengths to our weaknesses. And I think equally, if we compared our strengths to their weaknesses, I think that our district has a lot to offer. I have been in the high schools here just recently in the last couple of weeks, and there are some incredible things going on that we have to offer students. We also have to decide what is important. Is it the most, are we to compare that the most important is how many children in our district go to Ivy League schools, or how many children are we educating into the workforce, into doing what their dreams and goals are? Not everybody's dreams and goals are to go to an Ivy League school or something like that, but how are we being successful to students?
And Colette?
I've said it before, Minneapolis has now gone to a 7-hour class day. We used to have that. And it's a matter of prioritizing the budget so that we can have more electives. Some electives may be remedial courses for those that are not making and closing the gap. Some may be vocational courses. Some may be geared more towards the college and robust credits. And some may be just so that kids have a desire, whether it's silk screening, t-shirts, and graphic design, or whether it's the engineering and architecture classes that have credits at the U. We can do better with the current money that we have as long as the levy passes. It is about priorities and the budget that is controlled by the school board.
Thank you. And Linda, you will be getting the next question. What do you see your role is in advocating for public schools, and especially the Osseo area schools, at the state legislative level?
I would think that my role would be to keep legislators informed about what the struggles are, particularly with the financing of public education. I think there's a disconnect, and I think when there is a budget crisis, the goal becomes to just cut across the board, and I think I would be the squeaky wheel in their ear to say we need to fund education at all costs, because if we don't fund it now, we're going to be funding it later on, because we're going to have kids who are not able to compete academically. They're going to fall through the cracks and cost us a lot more later. So I think my role would be to inform and educate legislators about what is really going on in our district.
Robert?
We're pretty fortunate right now because we have some fairly powerful people in the state that live right in our district. Speaker Zellers lives right in our district. I don't think that we have exploited that fact adequately enough. I think that that would be a great place to start. Granted, he gets reelected in the 6th as well. But to really be able to get into the ear of somebody that's that high up in the power pyramid at the state level and try to advocate for not just more adequate funding for the school district, but to end things like the school shift, as it's called, where maybe asking for more money might be irrelevant if they're just trying to play a shell game and not actually send that money down to the district.
Thank you. Jackie?
I think with my part playing in advocating down at the state legislature would be not only to make them aware of the things that are happening, but also to try to come up with different ideas of how we can make changes, but not just come and say we need more money. We have to have solutions. For them, it's all about everybody wants more money. And so you have to be able to go down there and say, here's a solution, this is how we think that we could fund this. And so my part would be learning all that I can, being on the school board and everything that is involved in it, and trying to learn and come up with creative ways of what we can do and presenting those ideas to the legislature.
Thank you.
In the past and currently, I have attended forums for other political positions and asking questions about what they can do for education. Requesting that the state provides equal pay for our students compared to other districts is number one. But also having it so that this shifting of money does not happen again. Too many school districts had to borrow money in order to operate. We can't function that way. We also have to make changes to No Child Left Behind and to the testing schematics that the state has, because it's just too much time spent on testing when we could simplify this.
Thank you. Dean?
The role that I would play is helping our local elected officials and those from other areas to understand there's a lot of talk down in St. Paul about education doing better. And the message that I take to them is that in order for us to do better, we need to have more local control. There's a number of statutes that directly impact our ability to, I think, efficiently run our school district. There's also state and federal mandates. And another piece, I know in I think it was the most recent legislative session, there's a lot of talk of the additional per pupil funding that was given. But at the same time, there was an increase in TRA that we're paying to help several other school districts with their underfunding. So they gave us money in one hand and then they took it away in the other. And so I don't know that they always fully understand the impact of some of the things that they legislate. So I would work to continue to educate them.
Sounds good. Okay, Robert, you're going to have the next question. I have a whole stack of questions on standard-based grading. Evidently, it's a high interest in the district. So first question is, do you support standards-based grading? Why or why not?
I support the theory behind standards-based grading. I support the idea of standards-based grading. I think it's a great way to make sure that tests and evaluation of students is done fairly. The problem is that there's a big difference between theory and implementation, and in the last 2 years or year and a half, the implementation of standards-based grading has, to put it mildly, left a lot to be desired. I think it's still fixable. I think this can be salvaged for the benefit of students, but I also think that there's just a lot of confusion and a lot of disparity between the understanding of different teachers, different schools, different school buildings, and we need to first and foremost get that straightened out. So I say that we need to fix it, and fix it now, or get rid of it before it harms any more students.
Jackie?
I like standard-based grading on the fact that kids are they're graded by what they know, and they're graded against the standard, not against each other. I believe anytime that you implement a new program, there are always bugs that need to be worked out. I think that communication and with all teachers and making sure that they're all using it to the way that it should be instead of having differences between buildings would be very good. I was going to say something else and it left my mind, so.
I support standard-based grading. However, Minneapolis, the school that I work at, Anthony Middle School, does it differently. Instead of a 0 to 4, it's 0 to 8, and on tests, that goes per strand or learning target. So your tests aren't just up to 8 points. They can be 8 points per strand. So if you're covering 6 different areas, you now have a score of 48. And when you have to retest because of needing to improve a score, you only have to retest on that strand area. So you're not taking 50 questions again, you're only taking 8. And this works to the benefit of the students and to the staff, and it allows for a higher percentage understanding of the testing.
Thank you. Dean?
I support standards-based grading. There's a few things kind of falling underneath that umbrella, and where we have our issues right now is with the grading interval and a number of questions. 3 versus a 4. Some staff are going, whole increments 3 or 4. Some are using, gradations in between 3.5, and so another question on retesting, when are retests allowed? And so those are some of the pieces of implementation that as we continue to communicate with the students, the teachers, and the principals, it's making sure that everyone has the right information. And if we are deciding that we're going to implement in a certain fashion and everybody's implementing the same, then they have to have the implementation information to know that this is specifically how it's going to be done, maybe with not a lot of variation in that.
Linda?
Well, I do like the standards-based grading. I do think it needs to be consistent across the district, and I think that, as always, with something new, there are going to be glitches, and I think we have to just work with it until we get rid of the glitches. But what I do like about it is the fact that in the formative assessment stage, it gives children an opportunity to be evaluated in terms of what they know at that point, and if they are not where they should be, there's opportunities for more learning and more growth, so that when they get to the summative assessment, they should be prepared to take that assessment and be able to demonstrate, what they know. The other piece that I like about it is that you're not comparing students to students. It's all based on what the individual child knows, and so I think that's a good thing.
Thank you. And Robert? Let's see, did you?
I started.
No, you started, okay. My standards-based testing here is getting a little confused. Okay, this one you probably have answered, but it might be interesting to hear what you'd say about it. Do you see any circumstances that would have you vote to halt or abort standards-based grading? And we would start with Jackie.
Can you say that one more time, please?
Yeah. Do you see any circumstances that would have you vote to halt or abort standard-based grading? In other words, wipe it out.
I don't know that, when you start implementing something, I don't think that if you try it for 1 year, you need to wipe it off the board and start it over. So I don't know that I would feel that would be a good thing. You don't want to get into idea of the month or the year club. So I would say that I don't know that I would completely wipe it off the board. Is that answering the question, or am I not answering the question?
I think it'll be for the voters to judge.
Okay, all right.
Colette?
I guess the 0 to 4 scale, because every single point on that represents 25%. So if you were looking at getting a 4, you get 100%. If you're at a 3, you're now down to 75%. And that kind of a changeover for someone to fix, as far as during 2 weeks and stuff like that for students, it's overwhelming for them to try to achieve, to get their grade average back up to a 4, depending on what the test or what the assignment was and how much it depends on their grade.
Dean?
I would say 1 year into implementation, it would be way too early for me to say that we would pull the plug on it. As I said before, I think right now we're down to the point of it's the grading interval and some of the retesting when it is or isn't going to be allowed. That's the area that we need to work on. Personally, I think it's very fixable if we have the information for the staff to work with, and then guidance from the principals to ensure that we've got implementation that's consistent, not only within programs within a school, but then across the school district. I believe we can get the information out so that it is consistent and fair.
Thank you. Linda?
Well, I like to think that I live by the creed of do no harm, and so being that it's just a new program that just got implemented, I think you have to adjust and readjust, when you have to, until the program is in a place where it's working and all the kinks have been worked out. So in the interim, while we're implementing this program and trying to get all of the glitches worked out, I think it would be appropriate to make adjustments when necessary, especially if it's going to do harm, okay? And sometimes new programs have that effect, that they do create problems that, as we try to implement and adjust. And so I don't think we need to get rid of the program. I think we just need to work with it and get it going where it's smooth and where everybody understands it, it's consistent. I think it's a great program. We just need to give it time.
Robert?
The question, I believe, is would there be a point when I would be ready to pull the plug on standards-based grading? And I absolutely yes. That being said, I think the system is fixable. I think we are still within the time frame to be able to repair it and get it working. But I would say that time would probably be well before the end of this school year. We have graduating seniors who are having their grades affected by the problems that we're facing right now. And while they're fixable, if we can't fix them in time to help these kids make sure that their grades aren't being harmed as they try to get into college and entrance exams and things like that, if we can't get it fixed by then with these simple things that need to be done, then we should pull the plug. In the business I'm in, I'm a patent agent, and I work with inventive people all the time. And one thing I've learned from these people is you're not innovating unless you're killing off about 99% of your new ideas by just saying, I admit that I'm wrong, we're on the wrong path, we're going to reel back, take the resources we've got left, and try on a new path and see if that one works rather than spend a lot of time spinning your wheels.
Thank you. And Colette, you will be the next one to answer. We'll move on to other subjects. What are your views on the status of the campus school model currently set up at Cedar Island, Oakview, and Fair Oaks? Do you foresee moving Fair Oaks kids back to their neighborhood school?
From a technical standpoint, it's probably would be against the law, because you would be creating an environment where students would be going into a more segregated population, and so changing it back is probably not legal. That said, I support community schools and I support equity in the community schools. Like I said before, there are schools that have more equipment than other schools for teaching the same grades, and that impacts the community, and it impacts the look of the district as a total group.
Thank you, Dean.
Colette, I would agree with your first comment. I don't know that we could move students back into the school because of what you had mentioned. And so we're down the path with the campus schools that we have. And when Edgewood was closed and sold, I don't know what our capacity would be to reconfigure these schools. So I think we are where we are, and I don't know what that would look like if anything could be done in the future.
Linda?
Well, again, I live by the creed of do no harm, and I think we have to evaluate those programs to see if they're meeting the academic needs of the children that they serve. As far as going backwards, I don't think that we can do that for reasons mentioned by the two previous candidates on this forum. I was part of the school board when this decision was made. I know there was a lot of controversy around the whole issue, but personally, I think if the kids are doing well, then we could leave it as is. But, you know, if, for instance, the children that are having to spend time being transported all the way over to the west side of the district, if they're not doing well, we have to look at why, and we have to reevaluate what's going on and make adjustments as necessary.
Thank you. Robert?
Well, I'll have to admit that I don't understand the legality of the situation, so I can't really speak to that end. In general, I'm a big advocate for local control, local communities, and community schools. In general, I would think that students would probably be best served within their own local physical communities, as long as those schools are equipped and staffed appropriately and there's no disparities among different buildings within the district. But I would agree with some of the sentiments that have been expressed earlier. Is the cost worth it? Are we accomplishing what we are setting out to do? Is the academic achievement of these students justifying a lot of the activity that we're going to? If these students are benefiting, great. If they're not benefiting, then again, legality aside, we'd have to take a look at this and ask ourselves, why are we doing this in the first place if it isn't for the academic benefit of the students?
Thank you. And Jackie?
I think that one of the things about Osseo School District that makes it unique is all of the different choices that we have. This campus model is not like any other model that I've seen in the district. I thought that it was, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really unique and different. I think everybody has different needs, and I think that for some people that is a very great model to have. Having the different choices, whether you're having a science and math magnet school, an art magnet school, a campus model school, there are benefits to all of those, and I think that those things are what make our school district unique.
Thank you. Dean, you get the next question. Staying in the district, how do we keep kids and facilities at Osseo High School and Park Center High School competitive with students and facilities at Maple Grove High School?
The school district has established a process for evaluating facilities, and if the question is kind of the dome at Maple Grove Senior High, which I think it might be, a very unique partnership in which the city of Maple Grove put up a substantial sum of dollars. The school district made the land available, and the city built a dome at Maple Grove Senior High. Prior to that dome going up, the school district was working with business partners within the community to try to create a centralized location for a dome. But because the resources seem to be at Maple Grove, that's how we ended up with the dome. But there is a process for evaluating facilities, and the school district works with business partners within the community to help support facility improvements at the various high schools.
Thank you. Linda?
I'm sorry, can I get you to read the question again?
Yeah. Staying in the district, How do we keep kids and facilities at Osseo High School and Park Center High School competitive with students and facilities at Maple Grove High School?
Well, I think we have to make sure that, it goes back to that whole thing, separate but equal. I think we want to make sure that we keep it equal across the board. We shouldn't have situations where, one side of the district is benefiting from something that the other side of the district is not benefiting from. So the whole thing is about keeping it equal and making sure that all of our students across the district, have access to the same opportunities. I think, that's the bottom line. That's what we need to assure. And yeah, the dome thing, is here. Then we just need to make sure that other students have access, to that. We're all one district, so there's no separate. We're all one.
Robert?
I think that making sure that each of the schools are equipped equally for their own needs as far as that relates to the individual students, I think that's a pretty easy question to tackle. That's a pretty cut and dried bit of paperwork to deal with. But beyond that, we need to be able to look at the individual schools and their individual needs and be able to have enough flexibility left in the system to address each one of those as needed. There may be certain needs at one school that aren't required at another one, and we might have to focus more dollars there to be able to help those problems. As far as big ticket capital items like the dome, I would have to say that as long as we make sure that everyone has equal access, whether it be transportation or timing or scheduling, as long as we can keep that established, I think that's probably the best we can do, short of building everyone a dome. So we need to make sure that shared facilities are shared equally.
And Colette? Or Jackie, rather, pardon me.
I think that, once again, every building is different, and I think that while I was at Park Center, I saw a lot of technology and a lot of different opportunities that building brought that is different than the dome. They don't have a dome, but they have a lot of other opportunities. So I think evaluating each building's needs and also having different things that they offer. Osseo Senior has a program that the other high schools don't have. Each one is unique in their own way, and each one has their benefits, their plus, their points of pride, and the dome happens to be a Maple Grove, point of pride. And I just think that, we need to focus on all the different things that, instead of everybody having the exact same thing, everybody having a dome, let's, evaluate each one and assess, what they need.
Thank you, Colette.
There are some real problems with the inconsistencies in the district. The district has requested $333,000 from Hennepin County for Osseo Senior High for scoreboards and different projects than a dome. That said, the homeowners that live in Maple Grove that attend Osseo Senior High, the people in Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center are not happy with the inequities and the differences in facilities. This affects people's ability to sell their homes in our community. It makes a real apparent appearance that different buildings are treated differently, and that's not something that we want. We want to be a united community. We have to look at finding funds so that our facilities are the same. We only have 3 high schools, and we need to consider that important.
Thank you. Linda, you will get the next question. It was sort of a question exactly like what you have already answered, which was, what will you do to equalize funding among all of the schools? And I think you've pretty well answered that. But there's an element that we don't control. Some of the schools have PTAs that have a lot of money, and they give a lot of money to the school that they support. How would you equalize the funding between the have schools and the have not schools?
Well, if you have PTAs where you have parents that are donating money, to the school, I think that's something that we have no control over. I think if you look at, the gifts to the district that, are given, on a regular basis, I think if you look at some of the things that are going on in the district where, maybe there's not so much money, coming from the PTAs, I think, there are ways. I mean, we have the district foundation. I think there are ways in which we could equalize some of these things, just using the resources that we have. But as far as how much money a PTA can generate, it's just not something that we can control, but we can try to, assist the schools in other ways using other dollars.
Thank you, Robert.
That is a tough one, considering that a lot of the PTA, PTO money is coming from fundraisers, and those fundraisers are probably directly related to the affluence of the parents that are willing to buy or whatever products are being sold through these different fundraisers. I'm not really sure how you'd even that out. You could look at this and say it'd be easy to say we're going to take the PTA money that's coming in, raise it up to a higher level, and let some let the foundation or some other committee redistribute it among the schools. But I think that would end up harming the fundraising in general, because if parents didn't think that the money was coming back to their own schools, then they may not be as inclined to be as generous with the purchases and other donations that they're making. So that's a really tough one. I guess that it would be up to the parents. It's directly related to how generous they want to be with their own schools, and I'm not really sure how we would get around that.
Thank you. Jackie?
I think that every school has its own individual needs, whereas in some schools have a very active PTA or PTO, and they have that ability to raise the funds, which is really awesome. Other schools in the district are in more situations where the families are wondering where they're going to be getting their next meal and where they're going to be living. And so I feel like for buildings like that, it's not, the needs there are not so much we need this financial need, but how do we help children who are in poverty, who are coming to school, and we want to close that achievement gap and help them learn. The needs are different. To have everybody be exactly equal, I just think that we need to assess the needs and give them what those needs, fulfill those needs.
Thank you. Colette?
I think we have to look at some of the compensatory funds and aids as to whether that can be used better to help serve all of our students in those buildings. Seeking grants from the community and asking employers and businesses to be partners for certain schools can be a helpful resource. Another thing is letting parents know that the United Way allows you to designate 85% of your donation towards like the district foundation and try seeking as a collective community. There is also a Give to the Max date coming up here November 15th, and it's on givemn.org, or it might be mngive.org, and they are allowing all K-12s to participate.
Dean?
Patience, could you just read it again quick?
Yeah. Sort of is part of the equalizing funding. What would you do with the PTAs that are better funded and give more to their schools? How do you equalize it with between the haves and the have-nots?
I don't know that we could. That is the part of giving. People that have the want and the desire to give are going to give for the things that are important to them. We do help communicate with some of the various groups that, here's the various needs amongst the schools, and we try to develop partnerships where we can. But it is a challenge when somebody's passionate about giving to a certain program. That's where their interest lies, and the best we can do is to maybe help influence it.
Thank you. Robert, you're going to get the next one. How do you close the achievement gap between our white students and our black students? And if you want to also add in there, what do you think the causes of the achievement gap are?
I think that the best way to close any achievement gap, regardless of what it's based on, if it's based on economics or race or however you want to slice it, I think the best way to address it is to individualize the learning experience, drive it down to the individual level, and let the individual student achieve as much as they're capable and willing to do. Out in New York, they're working on a system called School of One, where every student's needs are analyzed, the technology, and technology is used to find the best matches among students, teachers, and resources, and this curriculum is adaptive. It creates a unique schedule for each student every day. This way, individual students are moved ahead only after they've developed mastery. So your high-achieving students can move ahead as fast as they want, and your struggling students get a little extra time, a little extra repetition in the system. So this gets any of the issues out of there because it's technology that's driving this, so you don't end up having questions of discrimination and other things like that entering into the equation. It's a lot more equitable.
Thank you. Jackie?
Could you please read the question again?
How would you close the achievement gap between our white students and our black students, and what do you think the principal causes of the achievement gap are?
I think that putting our best teachers in the schools with the highest needs is one of the ways that we can help to close the achievement gap. Having early childhood education at a young age, that would help in closing the achievement gap. The thing that, why the achievement gap exists, I think that sometimes people just don't know. If your parents haven't gone to college, you might not have a really, your opportunity, them helping you to figure out how to go to college you might not have it as much of a chance as somebody whose both their parents went to college and they can help guide you through. So some of it could be just also, both parents are working. They aren't there to help the kids do their homework on a day-to-day basis. Those are just some of the things that could be doing, having that achievement gap exist.
Thank you. Colette?
I think we have to work with parents and the students. We have to support student interest in order to have them wanting to learn. We have to provide remedial courses, and again, that goes back to adding another class hour during the day so that students have electives, but they also have the remedial courses necessary. We need to look at community involvement, supporting our teachers through consistent classroom technology. Again, when one classroom does not have the same technology as another classroom, it is very difficult for those students to feel like they're appreciated and not getting the crumbs of the district. This is important for supporting expected behaviors in our classroom. Students have self-confidence and esteem issues related to how their building looks compared to others.
Thank you. Dean?
I think the achievement gap probably goes back to the family and the family dynamics. Every family looks a little bit different. Could be one parent, two parent, working, not working. So for me, it is with the family. And as someone else had said, having effective staff in the buildings for the students that are struggling, to identify them as early as possible, get the resources to them that they need. Helping students and families understand that education is a valuable piece. It may not seem important to them at the time, but going on into life, it's a very valuable tool that if they're not equipped with a good education, they are going to be behind. The causes, I think, there's many causes we can probably look at. I don't know if any one particular one, if you resolved it, would fix the achievement gap. Hit the stop sign.
And Linda?
Well, I think number one, we have to commit to bridging this achievement gap. That's first and foremost. Secondly, research has demonstrated that parental involvement is very important in terms of, improving academic achievement. So when you have parents that are engaged and involved, you're going to get better test scores. Graduation rates are going to go up. So the parental involvement piece, I think, is very important. I think that there are schools that, schools across the district that are working with some of the toughest children. I mean, these are schools in Chicago, schools in New York. The school that's run by Jeffrey Canada is one example. We need to look at what they're doing to get the job done and try to replicate that. It can be done, and I think we just need to, be creative and continue to research and look for ways to do it.
Thank you. Okay, Jackie, you're up for the next one. Do you think teachers' salaries and benefits need to be cut? And then how would we ensure top quality teachers and teacher candidates?
Okay. I think that I absolutely respect teachers. I think they are some of the hardest working people in the workforce today. The job that they do is very hard, and I would not be able to do it. I completely respect what they do. I think that unions are there for a specific reason to help, and but not all teachers agree with having the union and having it do some of the things that it does. But I think that coming up with evaluations for teachers is a good thing, but that's just not a 1-minute answer. That's a very complicated one. So I don't think that I would just cut teachers' salaries and say that's it and do that. I think that they have a very valuable, they play a very valuable role in our communities.
Thank you. Colette?
I believe that we need to accommodate the teachers that we have. We may look at containing costs by the percentage of raises depending on the financial situation of the district. I do not believe that teachers are overpaid. Their efforts are amazing, and if we all took a real look at the most dedicated teachers throughout the district, we would see that their efforts and the support staff in our buildings make the difference for our kids. And we need to look at finding ways to get the state and federal government to pay the special ed costs and to pay equitable amounts for the students in our district and support education. Thank you.
Dean?
I've not advocated for cutting teachers' salaries, and when I look at salaries, I look at all of our staff. And what I've advocated is that containing the cost, we just can't continue to grow our salary and benefit costs at the rate we've been growing them, because our expenses have and continue to exceed our revenue, which then unfortunately leads to budget cuts, which then leads to staff losing their job and losing salary. So if we contain our costs, then we have a much better ability of sustaining our budget and not cutting staff.
Thank you. Linda?
I think there are a lot of creative things that we can do to contain cost. I think we need to explore the different areas in our budget to look at what we can do to slow the roll as far as spending. But I think the two most important ingredients in a school would be the teachers and the students. And so I don't know how we can, I don't think we pay teachers enough, first of all. So I don't know how we can look at cutting, anything from their salaries. If anything, we should be paying them more. They do have a very tough job, one that I wouldn't do, because it's just a very, very tough job to do. So I really admire the teachers who commit themselves to, teaching our children. But again, the teachers and the students are the most important ingredient, as far as a school. So those two things I think we have to keep in mind when we look at, cutting anything.
Thank you, Robert.
I think there's no more important element in the schools than having a good teacher in place in front of the classroom. You can't pay a good teacher enough. That being said, I think one of our biggest problems that we need to work on, probably advocate for at the state level, is to try to make some changes to the existing laws that are governing this first in, last out type system that we're encountering right now, and shift it to more of a merit-based, more of achievement-based system, so the best teachers are getting paid appropriately for their talents and their achievements, and let that be an incentive to encourage better teachers to really expand their horizons and really bring forth their talents for the benefit of our students.
Thank you. Okay, Colette, you'll get the next one. These are rather specific questions now we're getting into. Do you feel our current nursing model, utilizing LPNs in some buildings and RNs in other buildings, is effective for all of our children?
I believe that LPNs can do a terrific job as a primary health assistants in our buildings. That said, we still need RNs. Minneapolis's system is where there's health assistants, and then there is an RN that comes into every building once a week at least, depending on the size and the number of students and the health concerns of the individual buildings. And I think if we look at the system that way, as far as what district-wide programs we have and the student needs, we can best use both levels of educated staff.
Thank you, Dean.
I can keep it shorter and say yes. The LPNs working, within that RN model, it is effective.
Okay, next one would be Linda.
Well, I guess I'd have to say I don't know enough about what the LPNs do versus the RNs. I know the profession, but in terms of school nurses, I'm not sure about the different roles, but I think we have to go with the current model if the current model is working. So you don't want to tamper with something or try to fix something that's not broken. And if the model is working, then I think it's fine. I always think we have to, assess and reassess to determine if we're doing what is in the best interest of our students. And so, at some point it may be appropriate to have RNs in all the schools, but right now I think the school is doing a good job in terms of the health care for students. So that would be my answer.
Thank you. Robert?
I think I can keep it pretty short too. As long as both levels of these professionals are able to serve the students adequately, then why not? If there's a difference in the level of service that the students were getting, then we would probably need to revisit it. But as long as the kids are being served, as long as their needs are being addressed, then I think that the existing model would probably be just fine to continue.
Thank you. And Jackie?
To my knowledge, RNs have more education than LPNs. If I'm wrong, sorry about that. But with the growing needs health-wise of our children, I mean, you cannot even go into a building without children carrying EpiPens all around. I mean, I think that we should have RNs. I mean, I have a child who had to have, who needed to have carry an EpiPen and have seizure medications, and the RN had to come from another building to write it. Now, if I have questions, I've got to find out what building she's in to be able to find out what's going on. And I mean, these are our children who have serious health needs, and these nurses help our children. So I would like to have the RNs, have more RNs, because I feel that that's important for the safety of our children, and having traumatic events that, happen in our building that do end up affecting the other kids.
Thank you. Okay, Dean, you get the next one. Do you feel that our district needs more educational support personnel or less?
I would have to say, if we felt we needed more staffing, then the request would come that we had additional staffing. And so within that, not hearing that there's a demand, you could say, yeah, you could always use more staffing. But within the model that we have, I think we're okay.
Thank you. Linda?
And can you repeat that question?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Do you feel that our district needs more educational support personnel or less?
Well, being that I'm not actually housed in a school, in fact, my job is not even in a school, I think that's something that principals and superintendents would decide if they felt that there was a need to have more support staff. I think the support staff provide an excellent service to our students. I think the role is definitely necessary, but whether or not we need more educational support staff, I think that's something that our principals and superintendents would have to evaluate on a year-to-year basis. So it's not really a question that I can just answer without having more information.
Thank you. Robert?
It seems like the off-the-cuff answer would be, sure, it would be great to have more ESPs in the system, but the real question behind that is how do we pay for them? And that's where the balance needs to be struck. Anytime that you can add support personnel to help leverage the abilities of the teacher in each classroom would be a benefit to students. But if we can't afford them, then we have to fall back on finding that happy medium between what satisfies the budget and what satisfies the demands of the students.
Thank you. Colette? Jackie? Pardon me.
No problem. I think too, it's the budget. The budget, if we could just come and say, we want more staff, that would be really great. But if money wasn't an issue, I believe that there are programs within our district, that if we had more educational support, those children could be more successful in mainstream classes. And I'm speaking more of our site programs. Skills, strategies, and connect. Those children with more educational support would be able to have a better opportunity, be able to be in the mainstream classrooms more, that would be benefiting both the students in the classroom and the students that have the disabilities. And I do know that there is a need for more of that educational support for those classrooms.
Thank you, Colette.
I believe that we could use more support staff in our classrooms for the special ed students, as well as at recess. One of the biggest times for bullying is occurring on the playgrounds. And the impact that the budget cuts in the past have made towards making less staff on our playgrounds has made the bullying situation worse. And yes, I realize that our schools are trying extremely hard through positive intervention for behaviors to decrease bullying. But budget issues are a concern, and I do believe that if we lower our class sizes and try to protect our students through having as much support in the buildings as we can, it benefits all of us.
Thank you. Linda, you're going to get the next one. Do you have children attending the schools in our district right now? And if not, why are you interested in being a board member here?
No, I do not have children attending school in this district at this time. I do have two sons that graduated in this district, one from Osseo Senior High School and one from Park Center High School. I believe as a community member and someone who is interested in having safe and healthy neighborhoods, I think getting involved in the school district is one way of doing that. I think that it is our responsibility as community members to create these safe and healthy communities, and to sit back and not do anything would just not fit my personality. So I do feel a need to be involved in what is going on in the community. I'm very passionate about education. So regardless of whether I have students attending the district right now or not, this is my passion. That's why I'm here.
Thank you. Robert?
Yes, I do have kids in the district. I have 3 that are currently in district schools, 2 at Osseo Junior High and 1 at Rice Lake Elementary, and a 4-year-old who will be entering kindergarten next year. So I've got a good 14-year stretch ahead of me before my personal involvement in school dealings is over. And that right there, these 4 kids are my passion. This is the reason why I am running for school board, is I'm not satisfied just sitting on the sidelines and hearing about policies that are being handed out and being told, well, just deal with it, that's policy. Well, that's not good enough for me. I want to get involved at the policy level. I want to be able to help shape and change those policies for the benefit of not just my kids, but all the kids of the district.
Jackie?
Yes, I do have children who are in the school district. They have been at Rush Creek, Weaver Lake, Edgewood, Edinbrook, Woodland, and currently at Northview and Osseo Senior, and Osseo Junior they attended.
Colette?
My son currently attends Hamlin University in St. Paul. He went to the SIMS program at Blaine High School, where he graduated with 33.5 credits that were year-long. His friends that stayed in the district had 24 year-long credits after their 4 years. And this spring, we were told that they had required electives as seniors because there just weren't very many options. And it's important to me that all of the children in the district receive equitable and the best education we can give them. It's important for our taxpayers because our property values are affected by the decisions of the school board and the quality and the quantity of electives and credits that our students receive.
And Dean?
My youngest just graduated last year, so no, I currently do not have any children in the district. But with that said, I still have lots of friends and neighbors that have kids of various ages, elementary, junior high, senior high. And so with that, I still have a passion to serve on the board. I have a lot of knowledge and experience that I would continue to bring to the board. And I think we've made some great strides over the years, and I would like to continue in that service.
Thank you. And Robert, you're going to get the next one. A famous celebrity usually asked during his program, is that your final answer? This is the candidate's opportunity to give us their final answer. There are 15 days remaining until the election. You have 1 minute to leave us with a final impression of what you consider important about your candidacy for the Osseo School Board. And we will begin with Robert.
Thank you. Hardly a day goes by that I don't hear from a parent that's either thinking about taking their kid out of the district or already has. And there's a lot of issues going on about that. Thinking that other districts are better, the grass is greener on the other side of the fence, standards-based grading issues, maybe driving some of them from the district. And not only do many of these parents feel frustrated and angry, but they also feel that they don't have any voice in these matters. I want to give those parents a voice. I'm one of them. I'm not planning on leaving anytime soon. I'm frustrated. I'm upset with some of the things that are going on right now, and they affect my own kids, and I'd like to change that. I really think that we can change some of the things that are happening. We can stem the tide of people leaving the district, and we can keep a lot of the population here to really benefit the schools and the communities as a whole. Before we go, I'd like to thank CPAC for hosting the forum. I'd like to applaud our audience for attending, and I hope you take the time to learn more about this important election. My name is Robert Gerhardt, and I hope to have your vote on November 6th. Thank you.
Jackie?
As an Osseo School Board member, I will help continue to have our school district receive awards for fiscal responsibility. I will develop trust and be honest in my opinions, and I will listen to the needs of others so that we can close the achievement gap as well as adequately meet the needs of all students. And I would also like to thank CPAC for hosting this event and ask that you would vote for me on November 6th.
Thank
Colette?
you to CPAC and Oakview for hosting tonight's forum. I appreciate the chance to speak to you, the audience, and I hope I have answered your questions. We have a good district with hardworking staff, involved students, parents, and community. There are ways to improve the educational experience for all of our students in a united community. Academic achievement and closing the gap and providing choices are the most important things we can do as a community to support education for our students. It is important for us to believe that equity in the buildings means following the district's strategic plan where every child has the same intrinsic value to our community. It is so important that we work together, united, to bring changes that impact the students throughout the district in a positive way. We need to look at how we can improve and be more competitive so that we don't have students leaving the district. Our son made the choice to go to Fred Moore Fine Arts. He made the choice to go to Blaine's high school program for the Center of Engineering, Math, and Science. It's important to give options.
Thank you. Dean?
I would also like to thank CPAC, Oakview, and the people that are here this evening. I have and will continue to be a strong advocate for our students, our parents, our staff, our neighborhood schools. I intend to best serve our students and staff, taxpayers, and community by continuing to advocate to work towards reforming our outdated practices, communicate with, inform, and influence our local elected officials. And I also want to continue to inform our students and parents of the opportunities that are not only available within our school district, but through some of our affiliations with Independent School District 287 and Northwest Suburban. There are also opportunities that are available to students in our district, in our surrounding community. So thank you, and I hope to earn your vote on November 6th.
Thank you. Linda?
Well, I want to thank the sponsors of this forum as well. I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. I do want to say that I am here because I am very passionate about the children in our district and making sure that they get their academic needs met. I think we all know that children who can't compete academically are the kids that are at risk for getting in trouble. I'd like to see us living in neighborhoods that are healthy and that are safe. And I think the best way to achieve that is through education. So I think if we're focusing on making sure that our children are getting the best education that they can get, if we're putting a lot of energy into that, I think we can have healthy and safer neighborhoods. That being said, I'm committed to bringing my education, my experience, and passion to the board to make sure that we can make a difference for the children that we serve.
Thank you. I want to thank all of the candidates for being here tonight to help us learn more about themselves. And it takes work behind the scenes to put on a forum like this. Our behind-the-scenes person is Jan Sabrin, sitting here in the black sweater, and she has made all of the arrangements for this evening, and we certainly want to thank her. We also all got our orders to show up at 6 o'clock, so she's good at wielding the gavel there. I also want to thank the members of the audience who came to learn about each candidate. We didn't get all of your questions answered, but we got most of them. Remember to vote on Tuesday, November 6th. The polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. And thank you all for coming.